Welcome everyone. Today we have another updated version of the Necromancer build. And yes, this one is Pit 120. And if you look closely, this is a demonstration of the Necromancer without dying in the pit. So here my friend has made a variety of the adjustment of the Necromancer Blood Mist with golems that allows you to become unkillable or invincible. So I wouldn't say you guarantee not dying, but using his play method, his different choices of affixes, skills, and also skill rotations, you are much more survivable and you'll be doing tons of damage even beyond Pit 120. And yes guys, we're still using the Holy Ball potion, but if this potion is nerfed or changed in any ways, which people are saying it could be a bug with the minions, we will be adjusting the build and looking for ways to deal more damage with the Necromancer and, maybe lowering the survivability a bit. By the moment, the build with the Blood Mist and also minions is extremely powerful. And after seeing my build and also discussing with me, my friend has made his own version of the build. And if you have played last epoch, this is our marksman friend who showed us the lightning marksman. So here is Ember here, who actually showed us how to make this build work with tons of more damage, more survivability, and also pushing beyond Pit 120. Right away you can see he's going into the Blood Mist form and then this spawns corpses. Together with debuffing enemies and also stunning enemies with Corpse Tendril, he will be lowering the cooldowns of his Blood Mist. This is similar to what we're doing. But one of the focus you can notice over here is that he's constantly spamming active golem together with Corpse Tendril. This perma stuns enemies, which means he doesn't go into Blood Mist form anymore. He just permanently stunning them with lower cooldowns, and this is pretty insane, right? So this is one of the highlights for the build that I really want to show you guys, and this allows him to have achieve no death in high level dungeons, because once you get the rotation right, you don't have to go Blood Mist, everything's stunned in front of you and you're permanently controlling them to do even more damage, and this is very powerful for the late game of the pit, because if enemies are stunned, they can't do damage to you. Now, briefly going through the summary of the build, if you guys haven't seen a build like this before, what you're doing is, you're using Blood Mist for survivability. Together with Corpse Tendril that groups enemies together, you're nuking down enemies by killing them and exploding the corpses using the Holy Bolt potion. Yes, we're using the Holy Bolt potion, and this is the potion that is over here, very important to do, and before it's nerfed, get the most out of it. And once it's nerfed, we'll make a build to adjust for that. And in this sense, you have insane survivability, insane control because enemies are always stunned with how low cooldowns you have. You're proccing tons of cooldown reduction because your monsters are auto-cursing enemies. Your monsters are applying curses with Decryptify and also Iron Maiden onto the enemies, which allows you to free up a skill slot. In combination, he's auto-casting 4 different spells. He's auto-casting Corpse Tendril, he's auto-casting actually 5 different spells. He's auto-casting Skeletons, he's auto-casting Corpse Explosion because of the ring and it's on the skill bar. He's also casting 2 different curses together with Iron Maiden and also Decryptify. He's lowering his cooldowns as he lucky hit procs with the lower cooldowns after enemies are cursed, and this allows him to have pretty much no cooldown, as you can see over here. He's constantly stunning enemies with Corpse Tendril and they are perma stunned, and this allows him to spam the golem active rotation to do more damage and nuke down enemies. Now jumping forward to the boss fight. As for most of the bosses, you want to find the one that spawns minions. There will be at least 3 or 4 different bosses that spawns minions. As long as you're spamming your Corpse Tendril and also Blood Mist, you are invulnerable while constantly dragging enemies towards the boss to allow you for a one-shot nuke. And the nuke damage is coming from the Holy Bolt, of course. So the build puts in survivability while you'll be doing damage using the OP potion. I know guys, we're getting the most of it out of it while we can, but again, if the potions change and also nerfed, we'll find a different way to do more damage. And in this sense, the build is very survivable because of amount of the proccing and also the ability to auto cast tons of spells, which means you just have to spam 1 or 2 spells when you come out of Blood Mist, and this allows you to become extremely survivable while dealing consistent damage. Now, during this entirety of the fight for Pit 120, my friend was taking a little slow, trying to not die at all. And as you can see, it took him a while, over 10 minutes to take down Pit 120. And this is without any deaths. Now you might think this is a slow, let me show you guys a replay for Pit 100. So over here, we have a replay for Pit 100, and I'll attach this replay to show you guys as well. So this is going to be a speed run for Pit 100. And if you look closely, he was able to take down the boss in one shot using the combination in less than 4 minutes. So yes, it took him close to 4 minutes to take down the boss, and this build is extremely fast if you want to farm high level Pit. And this way you can get tons of materials for your masterwork using the Necromancer and then build any build you want. So the speed of this build, the survivability is very powerful. And I'll briefly go through how to acquire some of the important uniques in the game for this build. So coming over to the Mobilities Builder Guide. My friend has been very nice to craft the builder's guide for us, and also he has different choices of stats, different choices of the skill tree, and also Paragon board. So bear with me as we go through the details. The choices of the Book of Dead is the same to what we had, except this one. He didn't go for additional damage over here, he went for additional bolt with the skeleton mages. In terms of the choice of gears, what you can notice is, yes guys, he's using the Harlequin's Quest, which is the shackle, and this provides him with more skill ranks and also cooldown reduction. Now should you not have this helmet, we have an alternative build over here available for you to see what are the stats and also what are the gears you can use on the helmet to adjust for this. And don't be too sad about this. If you get cooldown reduction and also blood mist reduction cooldowns, this is almost as good as the shackle. So don't feel too bad if you don't have it. And if you do have it, it is good because it provides more damage reduction. And that is the biggest difference. I have tested +4 skill rank and also cooldown reduction is pretty much the same as cooldown reduction and also blood mist cooldown. Because he was using those gears, so I thought I'd share another variety of the build, how I use those gears. Now in terms of the choices for other gears, what you can see is he's having damage reduction with minions, he's having corpse explosion, auto trigger blood mist, which is important to have, but this is taking away one offensive spot, so keep that in mind. He's having the auto curse with the minions, and this allows him to free up additional spots for additional skills on the skill tree, or skill bar. And over here, as for the brutes, he's getting additional skeletons. As for the weapons, he's getting more critical chance with Corpse Tendril, which has to be manually casted. I have heard a lot of viewers says that it's not getting the buff if it's auto casted out of this unique ring. So you have to manually cast in your Corpse Tendril to get a buff for this one for bonus damage. As for the offhand, he's using the minion increased damage up to 40%, together with increased minion attack speed and also 120% increased shadow blight damage. It is very similar to the build I was using, except for the fact he's changing into the Harlequin's Quest and also removing one of the damage perks. So the damage perk he was removing was the bonus damage coming from the Army of the Dead, and because he was not using this a lot, so it's not the major loss of damage. But in a sense guys, if you want to try the previous build, it still works, and we do have a little more damage in sacrifice not having the Harlequin's Quest. Now in terms of the choices of gear of stats, it is similar to what we had before, but you can notice he's having lucky hit chance to provide chance to stun enemies, which will make him safer, and also chance to trigger more stuns and also more staggerings against the boss. He also went for bonus armor just to have 920. If you do have 9020 armor, 920. So if you have 9200 armor and 85% damage reduction, you don't have to go with bonus armor. You can then of course go with the cooldowns or durations for the blood mist, which will be essential for you to have more survivability. Now for the majority of the other stats, it is similar to what we were having, so we can briefly have a look at this, and you can see it's pretty much the same to what we're having. Now before we come over to the skill tree, one thing I want to highlight. So if you briefly have a look at the skill trees, the skills on the skill bar, you can see that he's not using decay. There are two reasons for this. One of the reasons is you can only auto cast spells that is on your skill bar. So this way the Ring of Sacrilegious Soul is casting Raise Skeletons, Corpse Explosion, Corpse Tendril automatically for all the skill on the bar. So he is auto casting 3 skills like Raise Skeleton, auto casting Corpse Tendril, Corpse Explosion. And yes, he will lose some damage out of Blight, but this allows him to trigger more Blight damage and also more Shadow damage, which in return triggers more of the key passive for the bonus 180% damage. And this is a personal choice. In this sense, he also saved about 2 skill points not having going to Blight. So one of the ideas of this is that, remember guys, we're having additional shadow procs. So here, let me go over here, I should have zoomed this in. So we're having additional procs of shadow damage that is damage over time as well. So this allows him to stun enemies, to have more chance of stunning, and also to trigger more cooldowns. So having Corpse Explosion auto cast every minute, or every second, every minute, every second means there's more procs, more staggering, more stuns, more procs to lucky hit that lowers cooldowns. So this is why he's not using Blight, which means more damage. But this means more survivability, more stuns, and also more control. And the reason he's using Army of the Dead is just to resummon the skeletons quickly if he does die, and this saves a little bit of time, and he doesn't feel like clicking on the buttons. So let's enlarge this, let's come over to the skill tree. Now briefly going over to the skill tree, you can see that the start is pretty similar to what we're having, and here he did max out in bonus armor. Again guys, if you have over 9200 armor and 85% physical reduction, you don't have to go in more perks to bonus armor. You can of course go into additional movement speed over here with darkness spells. We can see that he did max out additional movement speed together with additional chance of stunning enemies with darkness spells. Again, this will make him more survivable, because he is constantly stunning enemies, grouping them together, and dealing additional damage as enemies are controlled and so stunned. The points that were taken away was coming from here. So he removed 2 points coming off the fortify. He still gains fortify, but it's not as important compared to stunning enemies and dealing more damage. And if they're stunned, they can't do damage to you, right? Now for the rest of the skills, it's pretty straightforward. So let's briefly have a look at the Paragon board. Now, my friend did say his Paragon board is pretty better than me, pretty special. So you can see his Paragon board also has 7 different glyphs, and he is able to get some bonus points over here with additional life, bonus life, and also additional armor. So if you guys do want to follow a Paragon board that seems to be more optimized than my Paragon board, make sure you check out his Paragon board out for more golem damage and also more armor coming from the golems. Now coming over to the skill rotations and also tips for fighting high level pits with this build. So if you guys remember earlier, we talked about the skill rotation where he is controlling enemies and permanently stunning enemies. The combo goes that you go into Blood Mist and then you create corpses, and then you'll be spamming your corpse tendril and also active golem onto the enemies to deal the most damage. And during this time, because he's not getting bonus damage coming from the Army of the Dead, he actually don't have to spam anything else. So he is just spamming 2 spells. The cooldown reduction is coming from the minions cursing enemies, and as the minion curses enemies, they will be applied with a decrypt debuff, which allows you to trigger lucky hit procs to lower your cooldowns. And this is extremely powerful as you constantly stuns and also controls enemies. Now of course guys, don't forget you have Blood Mist. Whenever you are short on life or getting into danger, just cast Blood Mist, you become invulnerable, and then you do the rotation again. But once the enemy are stunned, then you keep casting Corpse Tendril together with active Golem to keep controlling them. Now majority of the high-end fight is quite straightforward. You do want to be more careful and also spam your Corpse Tendril more often after Blood Mist. You don't want to try to spam right away. You want to create corpses with your Blood Mist and also trigger the lower cooldowns. So this way you can spam your Corpse Tendril once you're safe. Don't get too greedy to save your Blood Mist. You can use that pretty often, because during this time you're invulnerable and you don't want to take damage because they can randomly one-shot you, right? So majority of the fights is straightforward. You go into Blood Mist, you cast Corpse Tendril, and if you need corpses, you can cast your Army of the Dead as well. And you can see that once enemies is controlled, he will be focusing on controlling enemies and dealing more damage with the rotations. Now coming over to the fights against the boss, this build actually has surprisingly more controls and so staggers, and this allows you to get the boss into the stagger zone very fast. You can see all the minions, the zombies, and also all your skills is applying lots of stagger. The goal for the boss fight is to rotate 2 spells, Corpse Tendril and also Blood Mist. Corpse Tendril will pull any of the summoned monsters the boss summons onto the boss and let your minion kill it for the massive explosion damage coming from the Holy Bot Potion. Casting Blood Mist means you're invulnerable. This rotation allows him to combine survivability and also damage. And yes guys, you do want to find a boss that summons. Everything else is pretty straightforward. You can see in the replays, in higher level dungeons, it takes a few hits of the minions to kill the boss. In tier 100 dungeon, it takes one hit to kill the boss using this combination. Now before I finish the video, I do want to share that you can see my friend's cooldown is not as low as me. I believe his cooldowns for the Blood Mist is about 10 to 11 seconds. My Blood Mist is close to 9 seconds cooldowns, but you can see with the combination over here, oh, he's about 12-second cooldown, right? With the combination of the auto casting curses and also triggering the decrypt lower cooldowns, he still have tons of lowered cooldowns. So even if you guys cannot find enough cooldowns on your gears, this can still work for this build for the end game. So what I do now is I'll provide you guys with both of these replays, the 120 Pit Replay with 0 death and also the 4-minute replay with tier 100 to speedrun those dungeons to farm for the materials for the masterwork.
I need more time.